Elevating consciousness, the three gunas. Sometimes life can feel like a struggle, like you're caught or tangled in a web of negative thoughts and emotions, and there doesn't seem to be a way out. Obstacles seem to pop up everywhere, and you feel depressed or saddened that something didn't go your way. And these feelings can literally hold you down. Yet, sometimes there are moments we experience freedom, utter bliss and joy, and contentment. Sometimes we're happy just because, for no apparent reason. Have you ever had moments like this? It's likely you've experienced the spectrum of these emotions in life. There are subtle forces in the world hidden around us. We can't see these forces or energies, but they do exist in nature. These energies can bring us peace and help us expand into wisdom, but they can also cause us to contract and downward spiral into ignorance. In Ayurveda, these primal qualities or energies are known as the three gunas. Guna actually means that which binds in Sanskrit. The gunas are energies that can bind us and keep us trapped in a web of illusion and negativity. And understanding the gunas can liberate us. They can help us find meaning, life purpose, healing, and deeper understanding of our lives by elevating our consciousness. The three gunas, or the three primal energies, are sattva, rajas, and tamas. The gunas are the underlying principle that uphold life. They govern the law of creation, maintenance, and destruction in nature. And they also govern our mind and the three doshas. Sattva is harmony, purity, knowledge, truth, light. Sattva is the pure essence of light. It's equilibrium, right action, and spiritual purpose. Rajas is the principle of movement, passion, change, and activity. Rajas is the energy that can cause imbalance. Tamas is inertia, inaction, darkness, confusion. It's essentially the opposite of sattva, knowledge, light, truth. Everything in nature is created from these three gunas in various proportions. The gunas influence our mind superficially, subconsciously, and also consciously. They help us understand how mental and spiritual nature functions. Just like the three doshas, the three gunas are a foundation of Ayurveda and yoga philosophy. So we're going to cover both the gunas and the doshas throughout this course. These three qualities or energies, the gunas, they can bring us bondage. Remember that the meaning of guna is that which binds. Although sattva is a desirable quality, it can still bind you. For example, if you hold on to self-righteous beliefs. When the energy of sattva is predominant, we are in touch with our divine nature, truth, source. We're connected to cosmic intelligence. When the mind is clear, we can make the right choices and take the right course of action. Sattva promotes unconditional love, peace, awareness, understanding, serenity, fulfillment, and it helps to advance us spiritually. It gives us health and a clear direction. Sattva, by its nature, creates harmony, balance, and stability. It cultivates love from within that unites all people and all things together. The energy of sattva allows us to move past our ego and our self and allows us to merge with all of creation. It removes self-limiting beliefs like fear and self-doubt. Sattva connects us to our infinite possibility by connecting us to the source of creation, our spirit. When we are connected to spirit, we are connected to the domain of love and peace. Sattva helps remove the attachments and the walls of ignorance that separate us from our true nature, which is spirit. Sattva brings us closer to our spirit, so it brings contentment. It allows us to feel peace and fulfillment within ourselves. To imagine the feeling of sattva, imagine being in the Himalayas, the purity of the rivers running through it. Imagine how you would feel walking through woods in pristine nature. Sattva gives us balance. It gives us a balanced mind by balancing our emotions. Rajas promotes the outward action, change, and motivation. We need some level of rajas in our lives, but in excess, rajas can lead to mental disturbances like OCD thoughts, agitation, selfishness, self-motivated action, and the desire to seek happiness outside of ourselves through relationships, accolades, certificates, and the outside approval of others. We may seek pleasure in short fleeting relationships or through food or unhealthy activities, for example, gambling or gaming or drugs. Rajas is short-lived and often leads to pain. Rajas causes you to have an attachment to happiness outside of yourself. So you're continuously seeking outside of yourself for pleasure, for happiness, when that happiness could be found within ourselves. We need some level of rajas, as I said before, to stay motivated and complete projects. But if we have too much raja, we can lead to imbalance, and it can lead to arrogance, false notions that you are your accolades, when in fact, you're spirit. You're not your achievements. We can balance rajas by cultivating and nurturing sattva through foods, through positive thoughts, through spiritual practices, and through sattvic lifestyles, which we're going to cover in future lessons. You can feel the stimulating energy of rajas by walking through New York City, Times Square. Just imagine that. It's crowded, there's honking. Our senses are basically just bombarded. It's overwhelming, yet it's exciting. There's lots of movement, and you could feel depleted after all of this movement and overwhelming of sensory perception. Tamas is the energy of inertia, dullness, darkness, and destruction. It's heavy in nature. It veils or causes obstructions. Think of a time when you ate a very heavy meal and you couldn't move or you couldn't think. You were kind of like in a food coma, in a daze. That's when you were in a predominance of tamas. When an action is tamasic in nature, it's based on delusion and it disregards the consequences, and it doesn't consider the loss or injury of others or even yourself. Tamas is insensitive. It causes dullness and a loss of awareness or a loss of consciousness. Tamas can be binding because it can make one reckless and not mindful. It can cause you to be lazy, crave too much sleep, instead of actually taking action. And excess tamas can lead to ignorance, delusion, clouded thinking, lack of judgment, attachment, and cause you to actually just be frozen in life. We need some level of tamas in our life to allow for natural destruction and to maintain order and balance. Just think of healthy cells. When they become unhealthy, our body needs to destroy them or undergo a process called cell apoptosis or self-destruction. So we do need some level of destruction in our lives naturally, and that allows for order and balance. But too much of it can lead to imbalance. In balance, tamas allows us to experience the death of things that no longer serve us. It allows for rest and renewal. Things can come to an end, like dead-end jobs or relationships, negative thought patterns. So what causes tamas to increase in the mind and in our body? Things like oversleeping, not having enough willpower to get up and take action, eating too many frozen foods, too many leftovers. The 5 elements are born in the womb of tamas. So there is tamas existing in all of us to some level, to some degree. Too much tamas, however, can lead to imbalance. It can lead to a chain reaction of negative behavior, and it can keep you frozen, isolated, and depressed in life. The energy of sattva wakes you up. Rajas helps you plan your day. Rajas gives you the energy to plan out your day and achieve your goals. Sattva gives you the clarity of mind so you take the right action for the goodness and well-being of humanity. Tamas gives us proper sleep and proper rest. In Ayurveda, the mind is found throughout the body. So consciousness exists everywhere, in every cell, just as the gunas. And we can elevate our consciousness through these 3 gunas. So if you find yourself in life in a place that you're not happy in, understanding these 3 gunas can help you elevate your consciousness and transform your life. In Ayurveda, the mind is naturally where sattva dwells, and the mind exists everywhere in the body. The mind is the home of sattva. Consciousness is actually called sattva. So there's great emphasis in most spiritual practices to calm the mind, to cultivate sattva. Even if they don't call it cultivating sattva, it's cultivating consciousness and mindfulness. Yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda are practices that can actually help us grow the energy of sattva. And any spiritual tradition of your choice, if it brings you peace, if it brings you harmony, if it brings you joy, if it considers the well-being of others and humanity at large, it is an energy or a cultivation of sattva. This spiritual practice that you have will cultivate sattva. Sattva removes the clouds of confusion, ignorance, and wrong understanding. Sattva helps to remove depression, anger, anxiety. Sattva illuminates us. It gives us light and clarity so that we can perceive truth for what it really is. We can see reality for what it really is. Rajas can create a false notion that you need something outside of yourself to be happy. You seek happiness outside of yourself. You will only be happy if you get a new pair of shoes, you make this much money, you get a new job, you find a new lover, you get married. You'll only be happy if you have children. This is the energy of Rajas, seeking happiness outside of yourself, seeking fulfillment through your sensory desires as opposed to seeking contentment within yourself. In some people, sattva is predominant. In others, tamas is predominant. And in others, rajas is predominant. We're going to go over the mental types of gunas. Sattva. Sattva always looks at the good and positive in all things and in all people. Sattva is the glass half full mentality. When sattva is predominant, people naturally have health, harmony, and a spiritual nature. Sattvic people are calm, they're considerate, and they're adaptable. They can easily flow from one situation to another. They always consider the effects of their actions on others, on the well-being of the planet, on humanity. They act with care and they act with mindfulness. The Dalai Lama is a good example of this, and so are many sages and saints who have come before the Dalai Lama. They seek to understand. They have a naturally peaceful mind and mental balance, and this prevents any psychological diseases from actually manifesting in their mind or the body. Mental balance can cut the root of disease from its source. So when you cultivate sattva, you can actually cut diseases from your mind and your body. Sattvic people are in a state of balance and harmony and equilibrium. No matter what is happening in the world, they are the calm within the eye of a hurricane. Now let's move on to Rajas. Rajas dominant minds have the tendency to see the faults or imperfections in others. Rajas sees the glass as half empty. Rajas minds remembers the bad deeds in others and easily forgets the good actions they have taken. Rajas sees the defects in others, and it causes emotions like anger, hatred, frustration, and other negative emotions to continuously disturb the mind and body. Rajas minds tend to become discontent and constantly need new sensations and novelty. The mind can become restless and fickle. One day you enjoy something, the next day that something is your worst enemy. Rajasic minds are often agitated. It is hard to stay still and focus when you have a Rajasic mind or when Rajas has increased in your mind and body. It's hard to find inner stillness and peace. Rajasic types can burn themselves out because they have too much movement and they're taking too much action. And sometimes it's the wrong action because they haven't cultivated sattva or the right action. They can become impatient and inconsistent, and they'll often blame other people for their problems. Even when Rajasic people accomplish their goals, they're usually unsatisfied. And they can become insatiable and have an appetite for the next best thing. You can find Rajasic people dating one person, then another. Rajasic people tend to have extramarital affairs. They have a hard time keeping one job. They're going to seek more power, more fame, more wealth. There's little satisfaction. They're on a hamster wheel in continuous motion, moving and moving and moving, sometimes going nowhere. Tamas. Tamas is dull and it does not have the ability to perceive a glass half full or a glass half empty. Tamasic people cannot perceive. They have a dullness of senses. Tamasic people have deep-seated emotional and psychological blocks. Their thought processes can often be self-defeating. They may say, "What's the point? I can't do anything about that anyway. It's not possible for things to change. I can't do anything. I'm just gonna stay here because I can't do anything. There's only one way, or there's no other way. There's no possibilities. I can't accomplish this. I just have to accept my fate where I am." Those are some things that Tamasic people might say. Their emotions tend to be heavy, stagnant, or repressed. They often do not even seek help. Tamasic people tend to ignore their self-care and they have poor hygiene. They may not shower regularly, brush their teeth, or clean up after themselves. They tend to wear the same clothes over and over again, even if they're soiled. They tend to have poor self-care habits or none at all. They don't take responsibility for their lives and will stand in the quicksand of life and wallow in their own self-pity, allowing the negativity of the world to swallow them. Tamasic people are stuck in the heaviness of inertia. Most of us have been here at one point or another in life. You can often find Tamasic people sitting on a sofa, flipping the channels, eating fast food, unwanting to move or do anything about their life circumstances. These three gunas exist in our mind and our body. We've all experienced tamas, rajas, and sattva in our lives. We can see them in our mental and in our spiritual nature. Most of us are somewhere in between, in the rajasic area. It's rare to see someone who's pure sattva, and this usually indicates that they're a saint or a sage. Someone who is overly tamasic would be extremely destructive, stagnant, and would not even consider taking a course such as this. We all have all three gunas in our life. The practice for this lesson is to evaluate your lifestyle and understand your dominant patterns. I want you to take the guna quiz. And you're going to take this quiz and gain an understanding of which gunas are dominant in your life. I'm going to attach a PDF underneath this video. So download the guna quiz, take the guna quiz, and see what guna is the most dominant in your life. Is it sattva? Is it rajas? Or is it tamas?